Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. This is one of those shows I'm almost nervous for. There's so much that we're going to talk about, and it's most likely going to get pretty unhinged and off the rails. So let's start with it. The big news from over the weekend was that, of course, the administration, the same administration that has been covering up and botching their handling of the Epstein files, is going to cover up and botch the rollout of the Epstein files after they were forced, the Trump DOJ, into releasing them. And I want to give you I'm sure you've heard bits and pieces of this in the last few days, but I want to give you everything we know so far about this release process. You probably remember Congress ultimately got Trump to comply and sign this into law, forcing his DOJ to release everything they have with protections for victims. And somehow the Trump administration figured out how to cause even more chaos, even more stench of a cover-up, all while doing crazy redactions like this. This was one of the grand jury documents they released. Podcast listeners, I'll describe, all redacted. Hundreds of pages of just all black pieces of paper. That's it. But then they're doing that much redacting and still being called out by Epstein survivors for not protecting some of their identities. How you do both, I don't know. Total incompetence. So that was one example. I'll show you, before getting into more, Jake Tapper showing this on his broadcast.
A lot of that appears to be being withheld or at least blacked out because of these privileges. And so that is one of the things that I think we're going to see going forward, is the question of why can't we see that? Why is that being accepted? Because this law is pretty clear that that Congress meant for the public to see as much of this as possible.
We'll talk about blacking out. I don't know if I can get a close-up of my phone. This is one of the documents that the Justice Department released. It's 100 pages.
Right. And
this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see. It's all black. It's just 100 pages.
I really wanted a crazy text to pop up on his phone while he was scrolling through this. I kept watching. Here we go.
Pages of redaction. That's the transparency we're getting here.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, of course, this is something I've been trying to warn all of you of, not because we shouldn't raise hell every time they do stuff like this. We should. But I also want to be cautioned in what clickbait can do to the story, the telling of stories, which is to say, here's what you should actually expect, and then here's what we should fight for. So we should fight for full transparency. That doesn't mean we should expect it. And I've been trying not to get your hopes up that we'll really get full transparency. And we're not. I mean, in the most cartoonish way imaginable, where just hundreds of pages of documents are all blacked out. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I'm not saying this is true, but this is the type of stuff that makes you think some staffers kind of want to expose Pam Bondi. They kind of want to expose Trump because they're being ordered to redact certain things. So then to prove a point, they're just redacting everything on some of these documents. Here's Axios. Epstein survivors criticize DOJ for failure to release all files and also failure to protect some of their identities. So they can be pulling down photos of Trump and then re-putting them up. And as I'm about to get to, they could be redacting hundreds of pages in a row, but somehow all the time they've had, they can't actually do the thing they say all of that redacting is for, which is protecting the survivors' identities. They slammed the DOJ for failing to redact some survivors' identities as required by law, but then for withholding some files beyond the December 19th deadline. You have Ro Khanna, as I'll show you in a bit, calling them out and saying there will be legal repercussions. Then you have this aspect of it all, as if they're trying to get people as suspicious as possible. It's insane. Justice Department's Epstein website has 16 pictures disappear, including who was in one of the images that disappeared?
I love minors.
Whoop. What? I'm sure he's talking about coal miners. as we continue through this, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate this show. It is free. We're doing our best to get content out during these holidays. We're so blessed with beautiful and large and wonderful and active families. So we're balancing the family time with the content time best that we can. If you like that, click the subscribe button and hit the alert bell, actually, because that'll help you know if we go off the map for a couple days. Then when we upload again, you'll get a notification.
Well, Erica, there's a lot of things that stood out in this latest batch of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Number one, these documents really give us a better idea of just how well connected he was and who he was in touch with. There was images seen in these documents that were just released of high-profile figures in the political and entertainment world, like Michael Jackson, of Diana Ross, of former President Bill Clinton, and even President Donald Trump himself. Now, it's very important to note that there is no evidence connecting Jackson, Clinton, Ross, or even Trump in engaging in any illegal activity connected to Epstein. And even on the topic of the president, we noticed just even earlier today that an image containing a photo of him appeared to be removed from the Department of Justice's Epstein library. Now, the Justice Department at this time has not commented on.
So this is the part that the headline was indicating. And I'll show you Todd Blanche's explanation as to why it was taken down and I think re-uploaded to the website. But here's the image. You'll zoom in a second.
On this, since we reached out, but it is notable that it has sparked more speculation in just these past few days since the documents were released of whether or not the Justice Department has been holding back any information regarding the president. And a top DOJ official actually addressed this. Here's what he had to say.
All right. It didn't zoom in. I might have a different photo for you, though. This was the one you can see that got taken down. Now let's skip forward to when Deputy AG Todd Blanche kind of slipped up when confronted about that deletion.
Blanche, I want to follow up with you on what you just said. You were referencing the 15 files released Friday. They disappeared from DOJ's website yesterday, including this photo of what looks like a desk with a drawer open containing photos of Donald Trump. Just to be very clear, to put a fine point on it, why were these files taken down? You're saying it was at the direction of a judge?
Well, you can see in that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that there were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with President Trump. There are dozens of photos of President Trump already released to the public seeing him with Mr. Epstein. He has said that in the 90s and early 2000s, he socialized with him. So the absurdity of us pulling down a photo, a single photo, because President Trump was in it, is laughable. And the fact that everybody's trying to act like that's the case is a reflection of their true motivation. But the reality is anybody, any victim, any victim's lawyers, any victim rights group can reach out to us and say, hey, Department of Justice, there's a document, there's a photo, there's something within the Epstein files that identifies me, and we will then, of course, pull that off and investigate it.
Are you saying that one or more of the women in one of the photos or several of the photos is a victim or a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein, and that's why you took those files down, and will they be put back up?
No, that's not what I'm saying. We, of course, if we knew that, if we had,
and then he goes on to say a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But do you see, he goes, well, someone reached out and said that it was identifying a survivor. So the fact that Trump was in it was not the notable part. Sounds pretty notable to me. Sounds pretty notable that that's who he was photographed with. Or maybe they're saying other photos separately in the broader photo. That's kind of a confusing way to word it. But you know what I mean? There's like a few photos spattered around and maybe Trump was in this one. But he was with women or girls in one of them. You can't really make it out. It's from a distance. But regardless, my point is more about how can you be this incompetent this many times? I don't need to take you through the whole timeline, but it's been a crazy last few months. Remember, it all started with the binders and then the Bondi. I got the list on my desk. And then it's all closed, there's nothing else. And then actually there is more stuff. And then I just saw Bondi released a statement saying we will be investigating anyone else that we think, if we can find any evidence, we'll definitely be prosecuting other people connected to Epstein if necessary. But you told us there was no one else connected. That was your whole statement that caused this all to happen. And now you have things getting posted, deleted, full redactions, but not redacting some of the names that actually should be redacted, but redacting a lot of names that shouldn't be redacted. How can you be this incompetent? And you would say, well, it's not incompetence on purpose. No, I get that the cover-up's on purpose and the lack of transparency. What I don't get is how do they not do even that effectively? And then there's questions about notes like this that got published. Redacted touched me during both, so presumably this is of victims telling. J.E., Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, redacted, and me. Those were people I saw the most. There were other people. There were a lot of different people my age. Some come and stay for days, some in and out within a couple something. I can't read that last word, but stuff like that. Why is this name redacted? These could be other victims. Why is this one redacted? Blank touched me. There's a lot of redactions that just probably shouldn't be there. And the names of associates are being protected when that's not what the law was supposed to do. You do have Bill Clinton, since he's photographed in different images and obviously has long been known to have had a relationship with Epstein, posting a statement saying, "We need no such protection. We call on Trump to direct Attorney General Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton," essentially calling for full transparency. Interesting. Obviously not the way that Trump speaks about it. Then you have this impeachable. Pam Bondi defied federal law by erasing Epstein photos to protect Trump. This is an op-ed. The Justice Department is now engaged in an open cover-up carried out in direct violation of federal law, and then tells the story that we just went through, and then Todd Blanche's very disjointed explanation. You do have more reminders of just how gross what went on was. Here's one of the documents. During one of Doe's encounters with Epstein, he took her to Mar-a-Lago, where he introduced her to its owner, Donald J. Trump, introducing 14-year-old Doe to Donald J. Trump. Epstein elbowed Trump playfully, asking him, referring to Doe, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. They both chuckled, and Doe felt uncomfortable, but at the time was too young to understand why. And this is the point for me that makes me lose faith in some of the defenders of Trump on this subject, which is a lot of them say, Democrats have been obsessing over this. I have a sneeze coming on, sorry. For so long, and there's just no smoking gun. As if, number one, that's even the purpose of wanting transparency, that we just want to get Trump. It's not. It's actually something that the survivors are calling for. Number two, I have seen enough. I don't need any more of a smoking gun. Not that demonstrates a very specific act that I guess some of them are saying would be the line for them, but that this man, our president, is so low character that he fully knew at the very least what was going on. No way not to. You don't have someone come up to you with a 14-year-old, a child, saying, "This is a good one," and go, yeah, and not know exactly what's going on. And that's enough of a smoking gun for me, as if all the other previous things we know about Trump weren't, to say this is not someone who should ever, just with this alone, be in the Oval Office. We just covered the story that came out of the New York Times investigation about how Marla Maples, who was Trump's wife at the time, was in the bathroom at a Mar-a-Lago party with the mother of a 14-year-old, like model and like beauty pageant person who had been invited to Mar-a-Lago with other 14-year-olds. And Marla Maples, Trump's wife, told the mother of the 14-year-old, allegedly, "Keep your daughter away from the men here, especially my husband." That's it. Even hosting a party or an event where there's 14-year-olds and guys are, according to this reporting, walking up to them and flirting with them, being predators to them, is it. That's it. That's all I need to know. And I would ask MAGA, if that's not a line for you, even if no technical crime was committed, that's already way across the line for me. Here's Ro Khanna.
The Justice Department's document dump this afternoon does not comply with Thomas Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act. They released one document from a New York grand jury of 119 pages, totally blacked out. This despite a federal judge ordering them to release that document. And our law requires them to explain redactions. There's not a single explanation for why that entire document was redacted. We have not seen the draft indictment that implicates other rich and powerful men who were on Epstein's rape island, who either watched the abuse of young girls or participated in the abuse of young girls and the sex trafficking. The reality is Pam Bondi has obfuscated for months. She first said there were no more documents to be seen. Now she's admitting and releasing hundreds of thousands of documents, but it is an incomplete release with too many redactions. Thomas Massie and I are exploring all options. It can be the impeachment of people at justice, inherent contempt, or referring for prosecution those who are obstructing justice. We will work with the survivors to demand the full release of these files, to demand justice for the Epstein class.
So this is all someone like Kana can do, and I admire it, and it should keep up. And if nothing else, all we can have is public pressure. And it's hard not to feel a little hopeless when I heard him say refer for criminal prosecution. Who? Bondi for Bondi to prosecute? Seems unlikely. Is there a... Who would be doing the prosecuting of who? And again, that's what he can do. He has to use tools at his disposal, but that's where it starts feeling a little hopeless, understanding, wait, wouldn't it have to be the very government that's covering up that would have to enforce any justice? Here's a little bit more from Todd Blanche.
Warren, we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you about Ghislaine Maxwell, who was, of course, convicted in 2021 for her role in helping Jeffrey Epstein traffic his victims. In July, you interviewed her in Florida, where she was serving a 20-year sentence in federal prison. Just a week later, Maxwell was moved to a more permissive prison camp in Texas. Why was she moved just days after you interviewed her, Mr. Blanche?
So that's a Bureau of Prison Security issue that I will not talk about.
Did you have anything to do with it? Did you have anything to do with it?
Let me finish. First of all, I am responsible for the Bureau of Prisons. So every decision that they make lands on my desk to the extent it needs to. But just let me talk about the security issue. At the time that I met Miss Maxwell, there was a tremendous amount of scrutiny and publicity towards her, and the institution she was in, she was suffering numerous threats against her life. So the BOP is not only responsible for putting people in jail and making sure they stay in jail, but also for their safety. And so she was moved. She is in federal prison. She was in federal prison before. She's in federal prison now. She's doing 20 years because she was convicted. And the fact that she was...
There are puppy days at the prison. There's art. She gets benefits. She's being treated like the best prisoner. She's being treated better than all her fellow prisoners at this already nicer prison camp. She's being given preferential treatment. What was it? They were doing like lockdowns so that she could meet with people against protocol. And then you're not going to... There's just no world in which you're going to make it make sense that she's more secure in a very limited minimum security prison camp that in the past people have just walked off of, just walked out. Bye. Thus, people could walk in pretty easily compared to a higher security prison. You're not going to convince us that this was just to make sure that someone didn't kill her. That's the whole thing of minimum security. It's with people that are at less risk or either to themselves or to others. No, that's not going to make sense to anybody. I think that's where we'll leave it. But the point is, there's different, as I read to you, there's different new revelations or stories or anecdotes, but there's also a continuation of the cover-up that we've been dealing with for quite some time now, and one chaotic botch after another, and a lot of scrambling going on.